Hello, happy, adjust my camera slightly, or maybe not. Happy Friday, everybody. Thanks for coming in. Welcome to another number 32. Boy, we're gonna have, let's see, what, 52 weeks in the year, so this will be closing on a year's worth of these roundups. Not too far in the future. Welcome to another edition of the OSR Reddit Roundup. I don't think I have any programming notes. So I'm just going to get into it, and let's just get the most bang for our buck, the most time for our money. What do I want to use? Okay, I'm back on the OSR Reddit homepage on the hot tab. I'll give it a quick refresh. And let's see what we get, and we'll go from there. Okay, what's going on? Kill screen, a pamphlet adventure for Mothership, coming on Valentine's Day. I'll give you an upvote, but I'm not going to check that out right now. Someone's got an ongoing fantasy fiction podcast with tabletop role-playing extras. Enjoy that one. Ooh, here we go. A homebrew confusion/chaos action table. This is posted by DM Masterclass. Hey, wait a minute. Sounds fishy. I think I know someone by the name of DM Masterclass. This was not planned, but here we go. This was submitted an hour ago, so this is fresh. Let me make sure to give it an upvote. I've been making/improving this table for a few years now. I thought others might find it fun, but it's no magnum opus. I use it when a target is compelled to act quote-unquote randomly or strangely. I've used it in the past for confusion or chaos type spells and for Toadmen hallucinogenic poison. The results are meant to seem reasonable and aren't played for laughs. My game is dark, a few of the results could be a little much. It's a D100 table, but the results actually go up to 110. The idea is that you can have less powerful effects rolled D100 and more powerful ones rolled D100 plus 10. This way, the more powerful effect can't get the results 1 to 10, target acts normally, and the less powerful effects can't get the worst results above 100. When I use the table, the results be the only thing the target will attempt to accomplish, but if attacked, the target will defend themselves, unless noted in the description. You might get various bonuses if the target ends up on the ground or unarmed, depending on the rules of your system. Of course, use the table any way you want. Depending on the source of the effect, you could roll on the table every round, only once for the duration of the effect, or re-roll after the target accomplished the first action they rolled. I do strongly recommend that you do not let the PCs read this table, even if they are casting spells that use it. A lot of the fun for my players has been discovering what is on the table during play. If you have improvements, please let me know which entry on the table seems weakest, which should I replace it with. Hey, Jason Hobbs, longtime fan, first-time chatter. I like it. Thanks. And Dungeon Master Masterclass is in there to claim this as their own. It has been so claimed. And thanks for hanging, Mr. Hobbs. I need one of those things. I remember watching the old Dan Patrick show, and I'm sure other things did it, where they did a first-time caller, long-time listener, and they would play some kind of effect. Or I think Dan Patrick, maybe he still does, was do something like to give I guess because it was all sports stuff, they would have people list their heights and weight. First-time caller, 6'2", 350, and then they hit a little bell or something. I don't know. Funny stuff. But anyway, thanks for being here. Okay, let's see what you got. One thing I do like, I think I've talked about this on something about having variable results on a table, in which something similar to what Dungeon Master Masterclass has mentioned here, with be able to add modifiers that will shift the table up or down. So you've got 110 for the full range, and then you can kind of slide up or down. Another thing you could do is, if this was a save and table effect, is you could, on a failure, have whatever the failure was add to the table. So, for example, if this was a hallucinogenic poison, much like, say, the Toadman hallucinogenic poison, someone gets struck with this poison, they make a save. If they fail to save by more than 10, they'll get that more powerful chart. If they only save it by, or miss by 1, then they'll just get 2, whatever. So it's another way of adjusting the table if you don't want to get into stronger, lesser. Just tie it all in. Hey, Jason, I'm 6 feet, 185 pounds. Nice. And then Terrence, hey, Terrence, short foot tall, fat pounds. Yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at these days. Okay, so we have, I don't know if I should read through all these. Okay, it's not 100 different ones, though. In the middle range, we've got individual ones. So 1 through 10 is target acts normally. 11 through 20, target acts hostilely. Is that a word? Hostilely? Probably want to look that one up. Maybe act aggressively, or I don't know if that's saying something that Dungeon Master class doesn't want to suggest. And allies. I think we want allies. IES. I need help. I need help with my inability to not pick at typos. It's not like I don't make typos of my own. I am not the perfect speller, but I don't know. Something about seeing the stuff on the screen. 21 through 70. Okay, it's just below. It's strange stuff. So we get stuff like treats nearby inanimate object as a pet, treats nearby inanimate object as a dangerous animal, digs a hole, cleans or grooms self, cleans or grooms surroundings, cuts off hair, tries to drink any liquid. I like that one. Tries to eat any food, tries to eat nearby object, takes off all clothes, equipment, throws nearby objects at nearby creature / object. That's good. No damage. So it's just kind of helter skelter. Sits down, rolls on the ground in a random direction, lays down, pantomimes attacking a non-existent enemy. If actually attacked, they will counterattack. Crawls on all fours, eats grass, dirt / dirt, vomits. Tries to use random skill, but without moving more than 25 feet. Gives speech to on topic important to target. Oh, that's nice. Screams. I'm always one for the odd random just screaming. Oh no. Jason Hobbs is already fomenting discord in the community. And Ian says, "Hey Ian, not everyone can spell good." Indeed. And I've certainly been guilty of my own. That's what always annoys me with Facebook is if I do either through autocorrect or through my own sausage fingers or just through accident hit a typo and then I hit send, I'll immediately see the typo after I hit send, and it just drives me batty that I can't edit it to fix my mistake. Screams. I love random screaming. Random singing is nice too. Climbs tallest thing within 500 feet. Jumps off tallest thing within 500 feet. Oof. Tries to break random held object. Uses a random magic item. If no magic items, uses a random tool for its intended purpose. Throws items as far as possible. Runs in a tight circle. I like that. Somersaults in a random direction. Tries to create the largest possible fire as quickly as possible. Unpacks all objects carried that are in some other object. So like your backpack, I guess. Throws all coins, gems in a random direction. Walks in a random direction. Runs in a random direction. Sprints in a random direction. Tries to stand on head. Tries to stand on hands. Acts as if asleep. These are good. Grabs random creature within 20 feet. Attacks nearest creature. Attacks nearest female. Attacks nearest male. Attacks nearest known spellcaster / miracle user. I'm guessing miracle user being like a cleric. Let's see. Attacks largest creature in sight. Attacks most heavily armored person in sight. Attacks nearest unarmored person. Casts a random spell. They do nothing. They do nothing and do not defend themselves. They attack their nearest ally. Punctures eardrums. Ouch. Attacks self. Eek. Bites D4 fingers off. Ooh. Gouges eyes out and then finally kills self. Oof. It gets rough there at the end. I kind of like the ones that are more like they could die from the nature of what they're doing than them outwardly just killing themselves. So I think I know we're trying to get more and more just dangerous, right? Or high, I don't know, what do you call high insanity? However you want to do it. So I like the idea is, you're throwing yourself off of things that are really tall. That's the only thing. I mean, they're all great. I mean, you see, I'm enjoying reading them all. These last ones I might change, not because I think they're unfair or something. I mean, unfortunately, you rolled really poorly on the table and such things happen. But I really like the flavor of the ones that are in that middle. And I think I would just want more of that flavor. Maybe just, I mean, some of these could be deadly anyway, depending on what's around you. Largest creature in sight might be nothing, might be something really bad. I think I just want to kind of amp some of these up. Because, depending on what's 500 feet away, flinging yourself off the top of it could also be deadly. Biting your fingers off. Weech. That hurts. That hurts. But yeah, these are cool. And I like the idea that no one's going to know what they're going to get. And I also like the idea that players isn't player facing in terms of just so you get that kind of surprise. I wonder if we could do something with act normally, because presumably if they failed their save, if this is the way we're doing it, then target acts normally is kind of a bummer. Ooh, he hit you with the this hallucinogenic poison. You fail your save, but you're still acting normally 10% of the time. I might like something that maybe some of these lighter versions, so they're not. It's not really bad. Maybe it's not as game changing, but they're more, I don't know, mumbling to oneself might be one, fidgeting, scratching, not causing damage, but just kind of itching, twitching, so, talking to themselves, some other things, and then get worse before they start acting hostile. I almost would move the acting hostile or aggressively or whatever it is, or treating. The thing is, target treats caster and allies as enemies. And in this case, caster, I'm presuming, is just, what is caster here? Because these could be things like poisons aren't cast. Like maybe there's like a random hostility, because I could foresee let's just say there's some kind of ambush or it was a trap. This is not going to be meaningful if it's say Toadman hallucinogenic poison was put on a needle trap on a lock. So what is the caster and allies in that sense? Would it be that they attack the door or the lock or the chest or whatever it is? What does that mean? Dungeon Master Masterclass says, "Hey, I like mumbling instead of acts normally." Cool. And you could do lots of those. Mumbling, fidgeting, itching, maybe taking off one piece of equipment. Instead of taking off all their equipment, they take off one thing, and you could even have a little sub-table if you want to roll what they take off or what. Maybe dropping something might be something. Hey, they drop their weapon, they drop their shield, they put down their backpack, they put down something, they put down their torch. We could probably pretty quickly workshop out some other stuff. I will put this link into the chat. So in case I should have done this before. I'm going backwards right now. This is how it works sometimes. What are we calling this? Homebrew chaos table. From our very own Dungeon Master Masterclass. There we go. I'll slap that in there in the chat real quick. Cool. I believe I already gave a thumbs up. Well done. Thanks for sharing that with us and with the community over on the OSR Red tab. Let's see what else we got. Oh, let me see. Any comments? No comments yet. Here, I will leave a comment. There we go. Oh, Taryn looks for their car keys that have been in their hands the whole time. Yeah. Or looks for their glasses, their monocles, or bionicles that are on their head. Yeah, that would be a good one. Actually, that would be a good one. Looks for something that is in their hand as if it's not there. That one is generic enough that it could fit in a fantasy, right? You're holding the torch, but you're looking around like you don't know where the torch is, or you're looking for your sword even though the sword is in your hand. None Nothing. Hey, None Nothing says, like the table. And he says, I'm one of the people that used the table, didn't get to see it. Aha. Yes, sir. And how did you like the table? None Nothing. Were you a victim? Did you have to roll on the table for yourself or for an effect that you were casting at someone else? Okay, I'll give that one a thumbs up. Give that one a thumbs up. Thoughts on the OS Cleric? Oh, this will be good. I think. Give it a thumbs up. This was posted by Eric Diaz, DOTD. we'll go out to the blog. This is from I think I've been here before. That's one thing I've noticed. There's a lot of the same folk. Not that it's not bad, but a lot of the same folk I feel like post a lot of the content on OSR, at least in terms of the posts. So I know that I'm seeing some of these things. Some of these blogs and stuff I feel like are repeat customers. Strange Clerics of OD&D. There it is in the chat. This is from the Methods and Madness blog. Where are we? Here we go. First, we have this is posted today, Friday, February 4th, 2022. Then we have a quote from William Blake. I'm William Blake. I must create a system or be enslaved by another man's. I will not reason and compare. My business is to create. Titled The Strange Clerics of Original D&D and BX, OSR, etc. In the original D&D, the cleric is a very peculiar class, not only thematically, see additional reading below, but mechanically too. At first class, the cleric casts spells exactly as a magic user or elf, only starting a level later than both, and having a lower cap, 5th level spells, when compared to the magic user, 6th level. Once you dig a bit deeper, however, you realize the clerics are completely different from other casters, most importantly because they can choose any spell to memorize, not being limited by a grimoire. However, there are other relevant details. First, the cleric spell progression is very peculiar when compared to the magic user and the elf. For example, a level 6 cleric gets access to spells of 3 and 4 simultaneously for no obvious reason. Compare this to the magic user. Despite requiring a lot more XP to level up, the magic user does not have access to level 4 spells until level 7. And by level 7, the cleric can raise the dead. And unlike the magic user, he does so automatically, without needing to choose a spell to add to a grimoire. And then they have the table from OSE SRD, Old School Essentials, their systems requirements document or systems reference document, not requirements. I'm thinking in business mode. Cleric level progression, and they've highlighted these peculiarities that they're pointing out. The progression is in Moldvay's Basic, identical to the one in OD&D. However, it is fixed for something more streamlined in both BECMI, BECMI, and AD&D. Second, spell levels few, almost arbitrary. Do they mean feel? I think they mean feel. Second, spell levels feel almost arbitrary. Cure Light Wounds is a 1st level spell, while Cure Serious Wounds is a 4th level spell. With a 5th level spell, you can raise the dead, or create lots of food. Then there are deities, which will punish clerics that stray away from their path, or that cast reverse spells, making these kinds of spells a bit less versatile than they appear. In practice, these things combine to make a more or less coherent whole. Spell levels are all over, but it does not really matter because the cleric can choose any spells every day. The cleric is very useful and versatile, but never a better fighter than the fighter, nor reaching the same destructive powers of a magic user or elf. However, there are some downsides. For example, the game allows clerics to research their own spells, but there seems to be no obvious parameters on how to do so, since their spells vary so much in power. It also makes creating new classes who have access to both spell lists a lot harder for the same reason. Likewise, Turn Undead uses a strange progression. That almost makes sense if you take into account the creature's HD as OSE does. As you can see, there is almost a very easy formula to be found. Roll 7+ or more to turn an undead of the same HD as yours, 9+ if higher, etc. That gets quote-unquote broken because of the addition of HD2 star monsters, which are ghouls. By the way, they seem to be important for some reason, giving the elf a special ability that looks almost pointless to me. OSE suggests adding higher HD monsters if desired. This is really easy to do if you follow a simple formula. You might think that there is some unseen balance behind this reasoning, but this is not necessarily true. As someone else mentioned in The Keep on the Borderlands, reviewed as good an introduction to D&D, there are dozens of undead with amulets that prevent turning. So what can we do with this? If you're playing BX, OD&D, BECMI, or OSE, you don't need to do anything if you don't want to. In practice, as we've said, the cleric is not necessarily overpowered, especially if there are few undead in the campaign, and doesn't even heal that many hit points, relying basically on Cure Light Wounds, which is good if you're healing 1d3 per day otherwise, despite being able to raise dead quite soon. However, if you're writing your own house rules or OSR game and want to create a cleric more to your liking, you might consider streamlining spell progression and spell levels, streamlining turn undead, especially if you don't need a column to accommodate ghouls, giving more healing options if you want the cleric to be a healer, change raise dead if you want it to be less common. This is what I did in Dark Fantasy Basic, making the cleric a weaker spellcaster than the magic user and making turn undead a skill. And what I'm working on for my next supplement, an alternate magic book for OSE. Let me know in the comments if you like the idea. And then they've listed some recommended reading. I think it's fine. I mean, the point is really just to point out that, hey, there are some interesting things, particularly if you want to call it that, or just intriguing, or just, I wonder why they did that kind of things. If you wanted to. I'm trying to say I don't have, wait a minute, actually, I think I do. Hold on. If I reach under here, let me just, not that I doubt them with the 2-star, I just don't remember. I was just going to look at, because I have my basic right here, because my game was yesterday, so it's still sitting here. What does the cleric table say? Just in case it's either formatted differently or looks slightly differently than the one in OSE. Clerics, it doesn't have, oh, they don't, okay, so yeah, they have it the same way, pretty much. Though I think ghouls are only 2 and not 2-star. I just used some last night. Am I correct? Oh, they are 2-star. Yeah, I think the 2-star, I think it's because the star is because they're a little bit more powerful because they have that paralytic touch, which almost got my party, but actually my party's hirelings really came to the forefront. All the player characters got paralyzed, but the hirelings hacked apart the 3 ghouls, the 3 dwarf ghouls. So that was fun. Yeah. So yeah, doing what he suggests is essentially, and I guess they must do this in OSE, listing out the hit dice. Yeah, you do end up with that 2-star. Of course, you could do something like just saying if you have a star, just move up to the next level. So you just would treat them as 3, and you would just have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 with that progression. I think that's probably what I would do. Because the star is really that, hey, you've got 2 hit dice as far as hit points, but we kind of think you're more powerful than just your 2 hit die monsters. So I would just say, yeah, just move it up. So if you're 2-star, treat it as 3 for things like turning or other things that reference HD and so on and so forth. Swig of apple cider plus water for the working man. Oh, and nothing, referring back to that other post. They were one of the toad men poisoning other people. Oh, cool. I don't think I have much more to add to this one. It's a nice little article. It is one of these, that's, I guess it's more for the, hey, if you're home brewing or if you're doing your own thing. Because I really think for the most part, like I went on a mini rant last time about theory crafting, tearing these things down. They're pretty much invisible, I think, practically just playing. But yes, I can see that if you start to make a lot of tweaks or changes, you might want to be at least familiar that these kind of hanging chads are out there. You want to fix them, or you don't want to make it worse from something that, yeah, sure, if you're just playing a regular cleric is mostly just visible because you're not really comparing it to other things or doing anything, but then maybe if you make certain changes, you could exacerbate things, make them worse. So, good article. Here we go. I think I'm going to try to make this a habit of commenting as well as up-thumbing. Up-thumbing, that sounds a little bit gross. All right, let's go back and see what else we can find. So we got DM Dungeon Master Masterclasses Chaos Table. We got that one. Thoughts on the OS Cleric. Okay, so what else do we have? Oh, look at that. I shall not. I've already upvoted myself. I think it actually makes you do that. Yeah, I just posted my thing for the other day. Nice to see it in the number 14 on the hot list, climbing up the charts. Rulebook read along by Hex Press. If you missed it, give it a watch. I think it's pretty good, and I think it's a really good adventure. So it deserves to get some. What's the word I'm looking for? Get some press, get some publicity, get some more folks talking about it. And there's a new one too, so timely as well. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. Free tiny spell book. I made a thing. Let's check this one out. It's on itch. Posted by Roarin Rorenleon 22. Apologies for the name butchery. I like to hand physical props to my players sometimes, especially now that we are playing in person again. If you like handing stuff to your players, you might like this tiny spellbook. All spells are system agnostic, diegetic, rules light, levelless, and encourage strict time records to make your campaign meaningful. They aren't easy to cast, being more ritualistic than Vancian, but also have the potential to be incredibly powerful. Grab it for free over here, which I'll copy and paste. Let me know what you think. Good or bad, all feedback is appreciated. Cool. I can do that. I can definitely give feedback. All right, here we go. Posting this into the chat. Later on, you should be able to go back and check the forum. I'll post this stuff there as well. Let's go check it out. Okay. It's called Libellus Lunae, a small book of the moon. It's a tiny spell book to physically hand to your players at the table. It contains 5 moon rituals. Each ritual is diegetically balanced, so there is no need for a magic system, quote unquote. Rituals are time specific in order to make strict time records meaningful, system neutral and compliant with Mosaic strict, but with OSR and NSR games in mind. Aha, Mosaic strict. We read about that a little while back. It's basically a framework or a set of guidelines for that frames how you should write supplements. Meaning they should essentially everything should be in the supplement. Nothing that you're not covering should be referenced outside of it. Everything is self-contained, wrapped, and you're not even allowed to call out to other things. You make no assumptions, you make no external calls. Everything is just in this module that you can put in, pull out altogether. If you had forgotten what Mosaic strict was. I don't want to just grab one. I will add this to my list. Let's see, did they give us an example? All right, so here's one, I'm guessing. Terrence says, that feels like good advice in general. As far as Mosaic strict, yeah. I mean, it can get to be hard. I think the thing that we looked at that inspired our little dive into Mosaic strict it was something to do with was it something that was kind of like trying to give you a Souls-like feel to your game, but basically you didn't die. Like if something hit you, you killed it, but you couldn't use hit points. So the interesting thing about it is you're writing in this case it has something to do with dying. So they could reference you could reference fictional things. So something hits you and you die. You can't reference hit points. You can't reference damage numbers unless those are things that you're introducing in the module. So it is really interesting. And I do think in general, having these kind of being sort of strict so you can be modular is good, but it can also be difficult because you can't reference anything. You can't even you're not even supposed to reference a core book. So you can't even say, well, if you're bringing this, you're playing BX, you're bringing this in. I mean, obviously you can do what you want, but you would not technically be obeying Mosaic strict if you reference stuff from a core rule set. So it can be very powerful, but it can also either you can look at it as being very restrictive or something that's really going to inspire your creativity to get around those things or be able to talk about things in a way that keeps you within that strict guidelines, but then also gets you where you want to go with this, whatever your mechanics module is. Ian says, I love in-game artifacts. I have a copy of Fungi of the Far Realms I've been looking forward to hand out. Oh, cool. So here we have a couple examples here on the side. I'm just going to read these. Hopefully if folks like this, they'll just head over to Itch, maybe drop a couple of bucks if they like it on the product. As the moon waxes, so does the Lunamancer. Prepare a feast of hare, pumpkin, and cabbage to gorge upon each night as the moon begins to grow. You shall grow each night in size and strength until, during the full moon, you are twice what you were, and then shrink again as the moon begins to wane, returning to normal on the new moon. So this is pretty cool. So it's kind of like a some kind of belt of giant size and strength, but you have to eat a specific meal each night, and then you're going to do it gradually. until you, at the full moon, you'll be kind of twice your size. So presumably, if you're a medium-sized creature, you go, you go up to large or something, and I don't know, then you'd be twice as strong, I guess. So you might, if you had 18 strength, you would have 36 strength, which maybe you need to be bigger. I don't know, because the way the strength, I feel like, doesn't have a strict incremental. So I don't know what I mean. Would we say that if you're twice as strong, 18 human, that you'd be 36? I'm not sure. Might have to play around with those numbers to see what that means exactly. But it's kind of cool. I mean, you get to have it for a while. I mean, you're going to keep getting stronger and stronger and stronger and bigger and bigger and bigger. I don't know at what point. I probably wouldn't want to make little incremental changes every night. I might say, okay, you start at some point, and then you maybe at certain levels. If we say, okay, at 3 weeks or whatever, 4 weeks is when that full moon is. And I also say that maybe you have to start on the new moon. I don't think I would say, well, if you can't, I think I wouldn't let someone play it to the last second. Say, okay, well, we're just one sliver away from the full moon. Now I'm going to get my pumpkin, eat my stuff, and then I'm going to grow. Like, I was like, no, it's probably going to take a full month to do, I think. No, nothing says, I like that they put strict right in the name. So people can't be like, this is so limiting. Yeah, it's in the name. Right. No trickery there. They didn't call Mosaic loose. They called it Mosaic strict. Here's one more we have here. When the moon disappears, so may the lunamancer. In the dark of the new moon, burn sandalwood and lotus. Mix the ashes with hair blood and spread it over your naked body. You shall remain invisible until touched by the light of the sun. What do these guys have against? What do they have against poor rabbits? You gotta eat rabbit, eat hair for the one spell, and you gotta put hair blood. I suppose if we're being really efficient, we'll have two people. Starting with the new moon, one of them is going to eat the rabbit. The other one's going to take the blood of the rabbit to make themselves visible. I also like the sandalwood and lotus. And I would probably want to make these things that you'd have to find. Not just, oh, look in your pouch, you have sandalwood and lotus. Like, no, you're going to have to kind of track those down. I don't know where sandalwood grows versus lotus grows. I like them. But I would definitely, I kind of think that these are the things I wish sometimes these books would do a little bit more with. Is, okay, you got this nice foldable thing so you can hand out, and that's player facing. But then I'd like a little bit of give me a GM supplement that has stuff like, tell me about the things you're using in here. Tell me about where pumpkin, cabbage, lotus, sandalwood, all these things, where can we get them? Where should we put them? That way, when the players get this and they start legitimately asking these questions about, great, where can I hunt down some lotus? I have some things to tell them. It's kind of there, But yeah, this is cool. Let's see. Terrence says, that one feels like it would make a good adventure hook. A random giant bandit shows up to a town once a month demanding a payoff. Yeah, that's a good idea. They might be sick of eating rabbit and everything if they're doing that every month. But yeah, you could definitely see, like, why is this guy super huge? And maybe he's wearing like some kind of giant burlap sack on its head. To try to hide out. Yeah, that would definitely be something. It might even be a bandit. It might be, that's a good way to be one of those almost Scooby-Doo kind of mysteries where somebody from the town does this, disappears for the month, and at the end of the month, some weird masked giant bandit shows up, and then it turns out it's Farmer Bill who had been following the strange ritual, and that could be how the players, maybe they get the book. Ian Boyle says, looks neat, especially since I have a calendar with 2 moons that I haven't had enough opportunity to use. Paid $1. Hey, nice. Great. Terrence says, it becomes so culture to see a rabbit in the moon instead of a face. Oh, interesting. I had not heard that. Well, what about those that see a mouse shadow in the second moon? Oh, Muad'Dib. Cool. Well, thanks for sharing. Who did this? Substitute Adventurer. I will put this in the chat. A.K.A. Roran Leon. I feel like I'm mispronouncing that. Let's see what else we've got. I'll close that tab. Okay. Where are we at on time? We're looking good. We're making a lot of progress. Saw this one. I didn't comment on it before. I read it, though. This is interesting. So I will just reread this one for folks just to see what they think about it. This was posted by Big Dice Dave the other day. Like a lot of GMs in this community, my favorite part of running OSR games is tinkering with the rules. Unfortunately, a lot of players dislike when you change rules, especially during a campaign. This is frustrating to me as a GM because the only way to test your rules is to, play them, but that's neither here nor there. Lately, however, I've tried a new approach to house rules, giving my players magic items that are basically disguised house rules anyway. Obviously, this doesn't work with every house rule, but if you're trying to give your players a little more oomph or balance a weak class, this seems to work better than just telling them this is how the elf works now. I mean, there's a couple of things. There were definitely some interesting comments in here. I think, this one, let's see, I did upvote now. This one I upvoted by, it's posted by Dash, I'm not even going to, underscore, dash, underscore, dash, underscore. In my current campaign, I've used supernatural astrological events, laugh out loud. The ominous purple planet Artagnax is in retrograde. Its influence means that magic users can now use shields. You could decide if Artagnax's retrograde lasts 1 day or 1 millennium. And I do like this. I've used this stuff on my hireling generator with weird things, like they were born under some weird sign, so they, hate this or they love that, or they have a weird obsession, overwhelming obsession with this thing or the other thing. So I like that. That's why I that. But I did find in the comments there's a weird mix of some of the people who are doing that, your table, your rules, and if my players don't like it, they can get out. And I just don't think that's a really healthy attitude. I kind of feel like sometimes as GMs, maybe we lose sight of that. I mean, when you're playing the game and you're playing your character and you're counting on those rules, it is off-putting and a little strange if those rules keep moving on you. And I don't think, like in the example here, he puts, you're trying to balance a weak class. I don't think any player is going to mind if you're like, hey, I made this custom class for you and it seems a little weak, so I want to power it up a little bit. But hey, if it turns out that I've swung too far in the other direction, we may have to kind of pull it back a little bit. Are you cool with that or not? I don't think any players are going like, heck no, I signed up for this weak ass class and that's what I'm going to play, or I'm out of here, pal. No one's doing that. I think the things that get frustrating are when, poisons used to be save or die, but now it's going to be 3 saves or dies. And then the players are like, what? Shouldn't we get a little bit of input on this or be known of it? So you're I think you have to treat your players with respect when you're tinkering rules. It's fine. I don't think anyone is saying, no, you can't ever tinker with a rule, especially if it's pretty clear it needs tinkering, but you have to do so respectfully. If you think you're just going to, it's cool to just blindly change rules around and the players just need to eat it. I just don't think it's a healthy GMing attitude. I just think you need to treat people like you would want to be treated. Remember what it might have been like to be a player and see how you'd like it if things just start, changing around on you with minimal or no notice, or just kind of an attitude of, if you don't like it, tough kind of thing. So someone asked for some examples. Mars_alter. We'll give up vote. And one of them was, if you want to give magic users cantrips, give them a wand that lets them cast a weaker version of a level 1 spell per day. And then someone else, or AJ Chafe, says, this was my immediate thought as well. I'm one of the few people who really likes cantrips for OSR. Wizards should have just a few little magic tricks they can do. I would probably not make spells that do damage, but Mage Hand, Light, Minor Illusion, etc. could easily port over from 5e. Bonus points, you might have given them a powerful item, but items can be lost, /broken, /stolen. Darren says, I told you I would play the Super Commodore, and that's what I'm playing, dang it. Exactly. And then Dungeon Master Masterclass says, we are always changing the rules to my Heartbreaker, but the rules don't change during a campaign. Anything that changes takes effect next campaign. That's another way to do it. Or, you can just discuss them in between sessions. But I think that people, I don't know, you get this idea from GMs, like players are arguing for stuff that would be their benefit in terms of mechanics changes. Well, that's not really it. No, players really aren't going to argue if you're making something. I mean, some players might. If you're like, hey, I think this is too hard, and they like the challenge, maybe they'll say, no, I like it that way. I don't want you to make it easy. I want to play on hard mode, whatever. But most of the times, let's face it, if you're making changes that your players are objecting to, it's probably because you're making their lives more difficult. And then you should weigh that as part of it. Hey, I am making them more difficult. Is there a really good thing that they're getting out of it as an experience? And I think you should try to sell that to them. Hey, listen, I'm changing the way light works, and it's going to make things less whatever, but I feel like it's going to add X, Y, and Z. And then you should think about this too. If X, Y, and Z aren't really that impactful, then don't make the change just to make it. But I think sometimes people just want to be like, I got to pick up and I got to keep changing numbers back and forth and around, and everybody should like it. Yeah, maybe not. Let's see. We got, and here's this one. Dazok Nodnarb says, if my players are tired of house rules, they can find a different table to play at, to be honest. Not the a-hole, your house, your rules. And, you know, sure, I guess technically that's true, but I don't find that that's a really great attitude to have, because it sort of seems to suggest that all your house rules are great, all your rule changes are absolutely perfect, and, you know, anyone who doesn't like it, there's something wrong with them, or either that, or I know it's either that's your stance, or you're saying, you know, I know they might be flawed, I know they might not be good, but I'm refusing to make any kind of allowance for that, so you should just better leave. I'm not sure which one of those is the more negative thing to be. The person who refuses to believe their things might not be 100%, or the people are like, yeah, I know it's only 40%. I'm going with it anyway, and tough if you don't like it. Let's see, we got some other stuff here. We've got OSR Magic by D3G4N. I don't know if that's supposed to be like Degan. I'll take a look. Ooh, oh, no, they're asking a question. Okay, well, I guess maybe we'll see if there's anything good posted there. So they were asking a question. OSR Magic, hey, watcher of the old tomes. I was wondering, are there any good, strange, or interesting magic systems? I want an alternative to D&D magic system because I find it bloated and it is hard to explain. So we got some people. I'm just going to upvote some of these folks in the chat. You can let me know if any of these are good. I don't think I'm familiar with many of them. B Jesper92 mentions Wonder and Wickedness. They like this magic system because all spells are levelless, but increase in power depending on the caster. Each school of magic has its own list of thematic disasters. The spells feel magical and dangerous. If you like your world's low magic and distrustful of magic users, these books give ample reasons for why. There's the outline of a new spellcasting class in there that you could either use wholesale, as I have, or that you could just pick over and add a few house rules. A personal favorite is taking away almost all direct damage spells, but replacing it by giving casters the ability to convert spell slots into straight damage. I'm going to save that one because I might want to come back and check out. The Scarvington points out that Knave has levelless spells. Ex-Warlock Lee likes the Glog, the magic system from Glog. Fighting Fantasy uses character stamina to fuel spells. Sakribo also mentions Glog. And, oops, I forgot about the upvote. And then Gorak mentions 2nd edition's player options book might be of interest. These books are sometimes referred to as 2.5e. The one pertaining to magic is called Player Options Spells and Magic. This book contains other less Vancian ways of learning and preparing spells using a spell point system, as well as several genre-specific magic systems that could be easily applied to your old school rules of choice. And we have some links to some drive-throughs. Jason Hobbs says it's good. Which one is good? You talking about Jason Hobbs? Which one? Wonder and Wickedness, Knave, or Player's Option? Some other ones pointed out Maze Rats, DCC. Okay. I don't really have too much to add. I've been messing around my own kind of levelless, or not levelless, but no spell slot magic system, which is working okay for me, but it's not something I'm ready to hand out to the world, I don't think. I know I upvoted this one. I'm not sure if I actually read it, so let's get in here. We have a tomb setup generator. As part of a larger product, I put great stuff. Maybe I did look at it. I don't know. Oh, I think I might have read through this, but I'll go through it again. Or I'll take a look. Can I be as indecisive as possible? As part of a larger project, I wanted to put together a few random charts for how to determine a few key aspects of tombs: who was interred, who they took with them, why the PCs may stumble upon it, how it is decorated, etc. Let me know what you think. We'll likely be expanding on it. This was posted by Indie Joe. You may have looked at it on my iPad or something. Oh, okay. So the W&W, Brandon Strejek, was pretty popular DIY guy in the G Plus days. Okay. So this one posted on, oh, this is Inkwell Ideas. Right. So I didn't look at it completely. I think I just kind of browsed it slightly. Friends of the channel, Inkwell Ideas. There's a link directly to their. Let's see, this is posted on February 2nd. We bring back our Hexploration series by revisiting our Tombs entry made a couple of years ago. That post had a multi-column chart covering the size, age, and purpose of a tomb. Here we get into some more detail. Most of the columns of that prior chart could be used with this one, but here we get more information on who/what the tomb is for, why the PCs may be there, and what it is like inside. As always, if you get a result that doesn't make sense, throw it out or see if rationalizing it leads to an interesting secret or fact. And if you see something in your chart that meshes nicely with other aspects of your campaign or setting, then there's no need to roll. Just choose it. Here's an example using 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A pharaoh advisors are interred in the tomb. Caves nearby used by the tomb's builders are now used by monstrous humanoids, say orcs, but they haven't found the secret door to the tomb. A demon, perhaps worshipped by the orcs, is influencing the area and hopes to awaken the undead in the tomb. The PC stumbled on this situation when they noticed a dead zone without plant or animal life, perhaps a side effect of whatever the demon is doing. Okay, so who was the tomb constructed for? And we have, let's see, how many. Okay, so this is a table, 6-sided die table. Columns are who was the tomb constructed for? That's column 1. Column 2, who was interred with them? Column 3, has anything else moved in? Column 4, why now? And then how did the PCs get involved? How the PCs get involved is kind of interesting because I think for some things you wouldn't even actually need it. Obviously, you don't have to roll it if you don't want it, because maybe you're using this for a location and you're going to figure out how the PCs got involved as part of whatever else you're doing. But if you wanted to use for a one shot or something else, then maybe you could have. Maybe I would change it to maybe how the word got out. Like how did this tomb become? How did word of this tomb get out from how did it become something that could be found or revealed? Maybe, right? So that maybe the PCs didn't. In this, let's say, look at number 1. Visiting a relative in a nearby graveyard, they noticed the graves had been unearthed. Tracks or locals point them to the tomb. So in this case, you could take out the fact that, well, maybe the PCs didn't do that, but some of the villagers did, or the locals, and then the locals found the tomb, and so then they come back, talk about it, and that's how you get in the tavern, or that's how you get somebody wanting to seal the tomb, or however it gets to the job board or to the rumor table, however you like. And we get stuff on the who. We have, pharaoh, sort of god kings or queens, necromancers, great leaders or generals, just regular royals, some kind of intelligent creature. And then 6 is roll twice. It's got multiple different things in it. Who's interred with them? It could be family, top advisors, an army of devout followers, undead, kind of guardians, servants who have been killed, and then another roll 2 times. Anything else has moved in? Bugs or vermin, burrowing creatures. Here's the one that came up in their example. Caves nearby were used by the tomb's builders. They were now occupied by monstrous humanoids. And there might be a secret door to the tomb that's uncovered. Oh, maybe a necromancer's moved in to mine the place for undead, to farm undead from it. Might have gotten oozes, molds, and slimes, an alien craft. And then on Why Now, someone disturbed the tomb, an earthquake broke a seal, a cult started a powerful ritual nearby, a demon has showed up, burrowing creatures bumped into something, there was a prophecy. And then how the PCs got involved, someone got wind of it through visiting a graveyard, a religious PC feels dread in the direction of the tomb, there's a rumor. Kind of another rumor. Someone went missing. One rumor, kind of somebody went missing. On another rumor that some object is needed. Some MacGuffin is in the tomb. Might be a lack of wildlife, or there's a spirit entrapped in the tomb that reaches out to someone. Hey, Brian Smith. Welcome. You've come at the end, but it is merely your beginning. So that was from Inkwell Ideas. Very cool. I already gave them a thumbs up and a comment, so I need not do it again. Wrote a thing about Ren for Warlock. Thumbs up. I need to read Warlock. I'm not familiar with it. Bottomless Pit of Zorth Adventure. I'll give that a thumbs up. Monochrome Rainbow, a world-building game instead of a setting gazetteer for Ultraviolet Grasslands. I'll give that a thumbs up. I don't really know what it means, but thumbs it up anyway. Let's see. Default equipment, Questing Beast, As the Gods Demand. I think I did reach out to the author because last week we looked at one of the cleric classes in there, it was quite good. Pretty interesting stuff. And I actually reached out to the author in this thread to see if when they're finished, I think they're kickstarting it in some way. I reached out to them, so maybe I'll be able to get a hold of the full one to give it a read at some point. So hopefully we'll get to circle back to that at some stage. This one might be interesting. Your favorite skill system. Let's see what people are asking. It's posted by Logan Maddox. I know it's a bit polemic, but I'm usually a fan of skills. I've been using the skill set of Worlds Without Number, but I also enjoy skill sets with more skills, as long as it doesn't get to a ridiculous point like Burning Wheel. Anyone has suggestions? Oh, Brian Smith wants to see XP for quests. All right, I'll go there too. I'll see what people have to say about this one. Weird Cranium said, I don't like skills, but the implementation I like more is when skills are more like packages based on archetypes, like Barbarian 4:6. Means you have a 4 and 6 chance of succeeding at doing barbarian stuff like tracking beasts and scaring people. And then a Union of Kobolds asked what system uses that. And then Weird Cranium brought up Barbarians of Lemuria to something similar. Yeah, so they have kind of job levels. It's not identified quite like Barbarian 4/6, but yeah, something like that. And then someone points out, which is the weakness of this kind of system. My only real issue with these is when you have a group of grognards that get into discussions about what is or isn't barbarian-like or pirate-like, etc. I think the key there is just be generous. You know, if someone could point out if that it fits their people or their background or whatever, just give it to them. You know, hopefully no one cares enough to just go on some kind of rant about why doing this X, Y, or Z isn't barbarian-like. Let's see. Ryan Smith says that topic seems a tiny bit like the vein of that cleric class from last time we were all talking about getting XP for levels through ritual/quest. Yeah, I'll hit that one up because I think and Brian Smith, you are referring to exactly what I was mentioning before about that was one part of that other Kickstarter. And I mentioned I'd reached out to the author about maybe getting a copy of the thing when he's done. Ian says, I just cut out and folded up the Labelius Lunae book, going to coffee stain it, but should probably start paying attention to work again. Friday. You know, what is work on a Friday? Someone points out Troika skills. Okay. I don't really have too much to add on skills. At least not yet. So let's go to XP for quests. A Brian Smith special. And take enough vote. Submitted 2 days ago by Macular. Normally, you get gold for XP for bringing gold out of the dungeon. In these OSR games, does anyone ever have a noble or someone offer gold that earns XP as a reward for completing some job, or is it always just finding gold in dungeon? Okay, so not quite as expansive a question as we might have hoped. I mean, I think that's fine. I think it happens. I think people fairly often have that. Hey, go do this and I'll pay you some money for it. And in those cases when something like that's happened, I do allow the party to, that does become XP gold because they're basically getting it for fulfilling something in presumably a dangerous area. It's not go get me a cheese sandwich from the deli across the street. Here's a silver thing. If it, it has to be doing something dangerous, but assuming they are able to do that, I'm perfectly happy to give them the XP for the gold. No legitimate says, for sure I've given options of taking on jobs with guaranteed XP gold attached provided specific terms are met. I also use the hook to telegraph what kind of danger is involved. I want the bandit's king's head is a lot different from kidnap this rival noble sage for me. Then if the party decides the challenge isn't worth it later on, they also know they are missing out on the reward. I find having a couple of these around gives the players, not PCs, opportunities to go do something they didn't plan themselves but could find more interesting than whatever they were doing on their own. It also helps keep NPC and faction relationships in their minds because they are actively involved from a starting point compared to this other noble's taking out anger on your PCs via taxes or whatever because your local noble kidnapped his sage. And maybe they go and do something different with the prompt, like offer the other noble info on who wants to kidnap his sage, trying to get a better XP reward, but they also get to see their choices matter by changing the default flow of the story. It's also fun for players who like a bit of unusual to have combat, to have an XP-worthy bounty on a monster that doesn't usually have a lot of gold to steal. That's another interesting idea. Throwing bounties on some monsters so that you can kind of ignore or supplement their treasure, whatever their treasure types might be if you are following their treasure types. So maybe there's, I don't know, a drake or something that's annoying, or a wyvern or an owlbear, and I don't know. I think some of those probably have pretty good treasures. But I don't know, insert monster that you kind of want to throw out there that doesn't have a lot of treasure, but then you add this bounty on it, so when it does show up, the players not only have a reason to defeat it, but also to remember to bring back something of it, some trophy, so that they can collect something from it. Jason Hobbs says, low fantasy gaming skill is likely my favorite. All right, I'll have to check that one out. It's been on my list, low fantasy gaming. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. Scavenger22 points out that BECME, AD&D, First Edition, and Second Edition have XP for quest or achievements as an official rule. BX, and by extension OSE, do not. Zwart27 points out Worlds Without Number has a great goal for XP system. And then Jessabe or Jessab says the Black Hack and Macchiato monsters both let players set personal goals in exchange for XP. I mean, it's slightly different. Having players set personal goals is cool, though this is more in terms of external goals, but it is a minor thing. All right. We got time for maybe one more if I don't stumble on the 10-page blog post. Ryan Smith says, let's get weird with what can be XP worthy. Could be really anything you want unless you're adhering to specific systems. I really like the idea of class-specific XP-worthy actions. Yeah, that was something I brought up in part of that and the thing on the clerics, which I really do want to flesh out more, because I think it's a great idea, especially for sort of either kind of secondary type classes if you want to have them, or maybe getting over certain thresholds. Like, say, going as a fighter, going from kind of your mundane fighter to becoming that heroic level. Maybe you have to do something a little bit different to get over that heroic level. Maybe you have to go, seek out a larger challenge, or do something kind of that's going to be, somehow worthy in the annals of history for you to pass over and go from, yeah, you're a great fighter, but you're just a man, to, you're on the road to being a legend. So I definitely think more could be done with that. And I think that's the thing that maybe gets overlooked, because people do tend to just read the systems and go with it. Okay, XP for loot, that's all I can do. XP for loot. And it's like, nah, feel kind of looking at it, these games as more of a framework to build your own customized game on top of is, now think about it. If you want to emphasize other things in your game, then think about what that looks like and mechanize it with experience points. Aberrant Reflections, that's the sequel to the one we looked at earlier, or the other day. Why am I spacing out on the name of it now? On Sears, what is it called? I can't believe I just forgot the name of this thing. I just looked at it the other day. Sears Sanctum, is that it? My mouse is goofing on me. It is called, is it Sears Sanctum? Or is it Sears? It is Sears Sanctum. I was right. Just took me a second. So yeah, Aberrant Reflections, which is illustrated by Jacob Fleming, also friend of the channel, who made, who I've covered and had an interview with a little while back. How compatible are OSR rule sets with official 5e modules? I mean, I suppose you could do it if you got the monsters and stuff. You could just kind of roll everything else back and just use the text. I'm not sure I would want to. Here's a good one we can finish on. GM advice, Red Dragon versus Poison Arrow. Hey folks, I'm running a session of Basic Fantasy RPG tonight, and my players, 6 PCs, levels 3 to 5, are going up against an Age 4, I'm not sure what Age 4 is, Red Dragon tonight. They know this, they saw it sleeping, so they have been discussing their plan on Discord all week. At one point, the ranger in the party was able to harvest a poison gas, quote-unquote, pouch from a trap the thief disarmed, and has crafted a poison bomb arrow. All well and good, I love the creativity, but their plans for the dragon involve sneaking into the room and shooting the poison bomb arrow into its nose while it sleeps. The ranger has a massive +7 bonus on ranged attacks. Yes, I know, but it's all good according to the basic fantasy rules for rangers and weapon ranges and such, so it shouldn't be too difficult, even against the dragon's 21 AC. The poison is a save or die poison. One of the PCs already died to one, which is how they knew about disarming the other chest. So they're all reading through the basic fantasy role-playing game book, rule book, and metagaming to take the dragon down by citing the saving throws versus poison for a red dragon and how good their odds are. Maybe I'm being a party pooper, but this approach strikes me as being slightly broken. You other GMs out there, how would you rule this? I'm thinking that perhaps a poison that is save or die against a humanoid would only be strong enough to cause a dragon to take a certain amount of poison damage instead of killing it instantly if it fails its save. Then again, the poison pouch is supposed to create a cloud of poison gas that can fill a 10 by 10 room, so I'm not really sure how to rule this. I want the encounter to be fun and challenging, and I like the player's puzzle-solving approach, so I don't want to crush that entirely, but something about using an insta-kill poison on a dragon strikes me as being unrealistic. Any advice would be appreciated. Okay. Oh, wait a minute. Before I get too far into this. Oh, we got some stuff here. Okay, so they're talking about, in the chat, there's talk about Matt Colville's quest cards and player personal goals. Terrence mentions wizards get a 50% XP bonus when they are being smug, know-it-all to someone powerful enough to kill them. I like that. And Ian mentions the 5e Essentials kit. I do like those kits. Those are nice. Brian Smith says, thieves gain 2 times the amount of XP as long as they are carrying them a powerful magic item sought by at least 3 nations. That's good. I would even say something for thieves is like they can gain extra XP from chests as long as they're the ones doing the disarming and opening. So if you want to get some extra cred, you got to open those. You got to deal with those traps firsthand. And now to this one, Brian Smith says, maybe the red dragon is the only thing holding back the entry tunnels from flooding with lava. Once it's killed, the place floods. Yeah, so there's a couple options here. I'm okay with if you want to say you're a huge creature as opposed to a human, so you just need the dose isn't strong enough or might not be strong enough. But I would want to think of it in a way that doesn't feel super cheap. And I'm not sure what that would be. Maybe I would just say that maybe they get a bonus on their saving throw, which I've seen. I can't look it up now, but I know there are poisons things have come up. I've seen either in just like the BX core rulebook itself or in one of the in an adventure. Well, they say something like, "Well, this is a weak poison, so you get +2 to your save." So I would do that. Say weaken the poison. Say, oh, maybe you get a +2, +3, +4, whatever you feel like is appropriate. If you want to give the kind of they'll have advantage because they're huge. The other thing is that 21 armor class is just hitting the broad side of the dragon. It's not getting it in its mouth. So you could probably look at some other things to take a cue for how much harder an armor class it should be to get it in its mouth or nose or whatever they're trying to do, as opposed to just getting it in the general neighborhood of the dragon. I'm not sure if their goal is like the whole thing's supposed to go in its mouth or just it's supposed to go poof against the side of the dragon. But the dragon's well bigger than 10 by 10, and so it's going to fill the room. And if it has to fill the room, which I'm assuming is bigger than 10 by 10, then that would even dilute the poison even more. So those things to think about. I would definitely tell the players, like, if you my thing with players, if you start going in those books thinking you're going to figure out all the odds and stuff for things that you're not supposed to know about, like dragon saving throws and things like that, then that to me, it's like, well, that opens the door for me to change them. And generally I will change them to be more difficult. So keep to your side of the rule book and I'll keep to mine. I don't know if I would just change the whole way poisons work for dragons, but just give them some advantages on their saving throws like that. But I would want something that I could mechanize, because basically you're kind of making a house rule here with poisons and kind of the size of creatures, which again, it makes sense, right? You need poison to take down say tranquilizer to take down an elephant is a lot more than tranquilizer to take down a person. So if a person had a canister that was good for putting down one man with tranquilizer, I guess an elephant, it's not as effective. That totally makes sense. But it's still tranquilizer. It doesn't suddenly change to being something else. So I might work on that level. Brian Smith says, it does feel like even posing this question is going to prompt design choices that thwart the player's plan before they've even taken them. Yeah, it's hard, right? You want to, that's what you want to avoid. You want to avoid saying like, okay, well, this thing no longer works. But yes, they did say the players are metagaming by kind of reading the stats, reading what the dragon save is so that they can figure out what their chances are of success. That's a no-no. I'm okay if you know dragons, and I'm okay if you kind of know your poison. But when you go to look up, like, oh, what's their save? Oh, their save is 12. That means they've got a 60% chance of failing. And that's when I go, okay, maybe this particular dragon is a lot more harder is a lot more stout because you looked up the stats. Slurring Scott says it could kill them, but take 3 rounds or so. That's another thing to do, is it slows down that. And I actually have some poison rules I put up on drive-through as like a one sheet ages ago that does exactly that. The poisons are no longer immediate, but they take time to happen. But I definitely would want to keep it the way it is, right? But factor in the sides, and then it's something we can use later on if they run up against frost giants and they have some similar poison thing they want to use. Then we already kind of have frost, and this is what I do appreciate about the later versions. I kind of backport at least mentally into say BX is those sizes, extra small, medium, large, giant, because I like having those categories. And I would say, okay, a dragon, however big a dragon is, stuff in there. If it's made for medium-sized creatures, then maybe it weakens as you're going up the path of sizes, and then if you're going down, it becomes more effective. I would figure something out. Hey, Don Rossavelli. Welcome. I think that's it. So, folks who just tuned in, feel free to head back to the beginning of the stream and check out what you missed. We covered a lot of ground today, which is good. I always enjoy these. Sometimes we really get kind of zoned in. We get sort of really fixed on a few topics. This one we had a bunch of kind of smaller ones, which is cool. Brian Smith says, could categorize by the number of HD too, maybe how poisons affect them differently. That's true, and that would be good too, because it would reward, though maybe you feel like it's doubling down on saving throws if you applied that to player characters as well as creatures, but that might be something else to do. And then nothing says, I agree they should get a -8 to hit to get the poison in the dragon's nostril, but if they do, I'd have it do something powerful. I say let the players win when they should win. Absolutely. And Don Rossavelli has rewound the stream, so you will see this in the future. All right, folks. Well, on your way out, if you could give this a thumbs up, I'd appreciate it. If you found yourself in here and you're not subscribed and you think, boy, this is wonderful stuff, go ahead and subscribe. I appreciate it. It helps me out, and you'll get notified. There's also that bell thingamajiggy. I had a great time going through stuff as usual and try to do this every Friday. What am I doing? Oh, my mouse keeps sticking. Every Friday, so check back for the next one, which presumably will be next Friday. Other than that, wait, someone's in the chat. Oh. Brian Smith says, thanks. Have a good weekend, everybody. Terrence says, later. Later, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day, night, whenever you're watching or listening to this. Game on.